Chapter 2, The Letter. Zorrell stood over the small trash can staring at the ripped-up envelope that lied inside of it. She bent down and picked it up and saw that it was damaged, ripped in half by Mr. Freeman, but it still could be repaired. Something told her that she needed to see what was in that letter. She fished it out of the trash and sat on the bed and pieced the pages together. It was signed by some gentleman called Gavin. Leland. I'm writing you this letter as a last resort. I need you to come to Chicago immediately. It's a life or death situation. Several days ago there was a horrific car accident. Shanae was driving along a closed road, but the warning sign somehow had blown away and was not visible from the road. She lost control of her car and it flipped over into a ditch. She survived the crash, but she is doing poorly, and the doctors believe that she doesn't have much time. I've visited her several times, but she is in no way coherent. She constantly calls your name in her delirium, and I beg you to come before it's too late. I know you're angry with her for leaving you the way she did, but there is something you don't know about. Shanae confessed everything to me before the accident. She never wanted to end things with you. She only did it because she didn't want to ruin your life. She was persuaded to leave you by your father, who came to her and insisted upon it. In her shame she complied. She did it for you, but now to save her you must forgive her and come at once. It may just save her life. Your friend, Gavin P. Lorio. Zorrell put the pieces of the letter down and thought for a moment. Leland had told her the woman he was involved with was named Shanae, and if the letter was accurate she still did love him. So there was no reason for him to be miserable. His father on the other hand had some explaining to do. She didn't know why this woman would end things with Leland, always knowing him to be a wonderful person. He was a loyal friend who would help out anyone in need, and she must be a special person to have won his love. She couldn't fathom what could have happened in her past that could tear them apart, and in her opinion it didn't matter. She took the pieces of the letter and hid them on her person. When the time was right she would show the letter to Leland. She put the envelope back in the trash just as she found it. If Mr. Freeman or her father would return to this room, they would think that the letter was still untouched and not think to take any further action. She intended on playing Cupid for her childhood friend, even if the love arrows would never truly hit her. It was only right that Leland be happy, even if that was something that was never to be in the cards for her. She would be happy knowing she had a hand in giving him back his happiness. She walked out of the guest room and walked slowly down the hallway. She was standing by Eloise's bedroom door but hesitated before knocking. She could hear voices on the other side which sounded like a host of giggling girls. She opened the door to see Eloise's twin cousins Helen and Gabrielle. They had just turned 16 and were still in that stage between childhood and womanhood. "There you are," Eloise said and took Zorrell's hand and led her into the room. "We can't start the ceremony without you." "That's not true," Zorrell said, taking her friend's hand. "This is your day, so it's all about you. Everyone else can be replaced." "I couldn't get married without you there," Eloise said and took a light spin in her wedding dress. "We better hurry. The ceremony is about to start." "I can't wait to walk down the aisle with Gordon Mailer," Helen said excitedly as she picked up her bouquet. Her short blonde hair looked perfect in a tight wave and spit curls, one on each side by her ear and temples, unlike Gabrielle's long hair that was pinned at the sides, but she had the same spit curls as her sister. They were identical twins, and if it wasn't for their different hairstyles no one would have been able to tell them apart. "Gordon Mailer isn't so handsome, but his brother on the other hand," Gabrielle said as they walked out of the room. Zorrell had to laugh silently at them. They were two of the silliest girls she ever met but still good-hearted. Sometimes she envied girls that sweet and innocent. It was something she felt she never was. She followed the girls and finally Eloise came out of the room. Her father was in the hallway waiting for her. He took her hand and smiled. "Are you ready for this?" "Yes," she said with so much confidence. Eloise was always the dainty and sweet type, but she had an enormous amount of confidence. It was another thing she envied. The twins walked down the staircase and were met by their escorts and took their walk into the ballroom where the ceremony was being held. It was now Zorrell's turn, and she was escorted by Leland. She felt an uneasiness being around him after reading the torn letter that his father had discarded. "I guess it's our turn next," Leland said and took her hand. She could see the hurt look still in his eyes, and somehow she would get him alone and show him the letter. The only downside was that he would be angry at the father that he loved after he discovered what he had done, but Zorrell had to tell him the truth. After the way he had said the name of the woman who broke his heart, she felt she had no choice. There was anger and pain already in his heart, but also a longing to be reunited. As she walked down the aisle after they had entered the ballroom, she thought about what her father's plans were for both of them. He already had one child marrying into the Freeman family, and now he wanted another. The Freemans did have another daughter in Elisa, and she wondered which of the boys he would choose to marry her. To him, marriage was merely a business transaction. Never mind the happiness of the parties involved. With Devlin and Eloise, it was love. It was just pure dumb luck that it coincided with her father's plans. She wondered what profit he was to gain by this union. She knew in her heart if love did not play a factor, she would most definitely stop the whole thing. She would keep silent for Devlin and Eloise's sake, but not when it came to Leland. He deserved to be happy, and she was going to make sure that it happened.